Greetings, folks. I'm Tim Mendees. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. This week this time in my virtual pub, I'm joined all the way from Iowa City in Iowa State, by Craig Crawford. Thanks for joining me, Craig. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. Saw you cracked a beer open earlier.
I did. It's a craft brew. It's Yeti is the name, or Great Divide is the actual company, but they make quite a few crazy beers and a lot of darker stuff, the stouts, and this is an imperial stout. So
I do like my imperial stouts.
Yeah. I'm kind of all over the board. It just kind of depends on the day. I like ciders.
I was the same, but I can't drink a lot of the really dark stuff anymore because I got type 2 diabetes, so I've got to really watch the sugary.
Yep.
So I tend to stick to pilsners and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got that.
The craft beer thing is something that's really taken off in the US.
Oh my God, it's crazy. I mean, even around Iowa City, we have several craft breweries popping up, and there's always more, and everybody's just kind of, creating their own styles and stuff. And it's crazy even around the US from region to region, what you can get some places and not others. And
I think it's a great thing because, we've always had that. We've always had our local breweries and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Whereas for you guys, for a long time, you basically had Coors, Budweiser,
right,
Lone Star, and that was about it.
Right. No, and I always laugh because growing up, I hated beer. My grandpa drank Pabst Blue Ribbon. That was his beer of choice, and I was like, well, that tastes like crap. And then as I got in my 20s and actually more like 30s, all of these craft breweries started to pop. And I was like, wait a minute, there's a lot of good stuff out here now. And it has just exploded in the last 10 years. There's all kinds of really good things.
Yeah, because that's what I call proper beer. It's not like craft stuff, it's proper beer. Whereas all that fizzy mass-produced stuff, it's not proper beer, is it?
There's an old Monty Python joke. It's how is American beer like screwing in a canoe? It's fucking close to water.
Fucking close to water. Yeah, that was the Hollywood Bowl, wasn't it? That was the live one. Funnily enough, I actually read your Madison mini book, Don't Mess with Bunnies. I read it yesterday, and the thing that first, I was hoping, because I thought, okay, right, with a title like that, there's got to be some kind of reference. I'm so glad you got the Monty Python reference in. I'm so glad about
that. I was trying to be good in the story,
but the British guys killing a rabbit with a hand grenade.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a family staple around here. So I grew up on Monty Python and our family, and we passed it on to our kids. So
I was raised on it as well. It's just genius stuff.
Smart humor. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there'll ever be anything quite like it because
no, it's had its time, but it's like a window into that era, and it's just never gonna quite hit the same way again.
No, and I love what I love about it is that you can watch it on different levels, because you can just watch it for the silliness,
right,
or you can watch it for the satire,
right, and there's a lot going on.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's the best
superficially, comedy. And it's just funny because there's lots of funny situations and slapstick and all that kind of business. But if you look at it at a deeper level, there's some real biting stuff going on, which is hilarious. Yeah.
Right. I know. I have a handful of celebrities that I don't think should ever be allowed to die because they just add so much to the world. And I'd throw Monty Python in there, and George Carlin from our world, and just a handful of people, but it's like they just keep people honest, and they just say it like it is.
Yeah, you still see that today, like with John Cleese, don't you?
Yeah.
Every time he appears, he says something that just makes you go, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big one for me is Billy Connolly.
Okay. I don't
mean,
know him.
No, but I like the one person who thinks exactly like me. It's just
That's all good.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. It's it's great. So yeah, I mean, you've been writing. How long have you been writing for now?
Well, the funny thing is,
You started off doing like RPG stuff or something, didn't you?
yeah, I actually started sort of writing back when I was a teenager. Um, it was actually in the 70s and 80s, and Dungeons and Dragons was big on the scene. And I met up with a group of guys that played that. And then I kind of gravitated more toward dungeon mastering than actually playing.
Nice.
It was more fun to me.
To be
And
honest, I'm always prefer being the DM than being
right,
an actual player. I
and it was
love it. I love really like fucking people up.
yeah. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was storytelling. And then, it really is. It's like building a world. It's building, it's fleshing stuff out and building things inside for people to deal with. And
oh yeah.
And then I met this guy in 8th grade, and he had these little cardboard journals he bought from the bookstore, and he wrote stories in them. And we became friends through this group, and we're still friends today. And he was writing stories, and I'm like, what are you doing? And so, I kind of just got into it that way. I was reading all these really good novels, and I was like, oh, hell, maybe I can do that. So, I kind of played around with it through college and stuff. And then I actually started writing. I tried a few short stories and just could not get into it. And I wrote more novel length pieces than anything.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, I don't know. I was reading a lot of horror and listening to a lot of horror on YouTube.
Yes.
And I can't remember how I got into it, but I was like, I wonder if I could write a short story. Or, I hadn't in a while. And so I started getting these feeds to all these presses and stuff. And I just started writing stories. And I got 3 picked up that first year. And Manus and Don't Mess with Bunnies was one.
Yeah.
And that one I actually wrote for a different press, and it got rejected. And then I fired it out to Manison, and it was like the best rejection I ever got. They're like, well, this isn't really what we want for our anthology, but what would you think of a mini book? I'm like,
nice.
Well, that sounds better than the anthology.
Yeah. That's happened to me a couple of times actually. And it's just like, yeah.
Yeah. They were like, and they were really nice, but they were really, like, well, if this is okay, if you're interested. I'm like, yes, please.
Inside you going, yes.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help out. Yes.
That's what I love about Deidre and Ron. They're just so lovely. They're really nice.
They're great people.
Yeah.
And they're good to work with. Ron helped edit it, and I mean, very smart on that editing front.
Yeah, that's something I've always said.
And I always feel like I kind of struggle with the editing end of stuff. I have
such my weakest point. I get trigger happy with commas. I know I have faults with it.
I just can't quite separate myself from my words on the page enough. I'm getting better, but it's still, I start trying to edit my stuff, and then 2 paragraphs in, I'm just reading the story again, and I'm not really editing.
Yeah, I'm the same. I can't look at it completely objectively. I'm getting better as well, but I can't look at it in a completely objective way. And
yes,
I think everybody needs at least a second, if not a third and fourth pair of eyes.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, as many as you can get your hands on, but they're hard to come by.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had the friends read some of my stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, that's good," and that's as far. And I'm not blaming. It just they don't have the editor's eyes either, and that's a few of the stories I've published. I've actually gotten to work with editors and gone through it stories line by line, and that to me, that's the biggest educational help I can get.
God, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So I love editing. I don't take it as a shame at all. I love it.
No, and I have met several authors who get really offended.
Right.
By like edits and things like that.
Yeah.
And,
To me,
at the end of the day, I actually see it as a great thing because at the end of the day, they're making it better.
that's the way I see it too. Yeah, when I walk out of that session, I'm like, my story's even better than it was.
Yeah, it's better than it was. Because there's always things that you do. I mean, I know myself when I'm writing, I'm so wrapped up in it that I don't think
right.
Okay, that bit might not be very clear because it's
Right.
clear in my head,
Yes.
but it might not be clear to the reader.
Right.
Whereas as an editor, like say Ron, for instance, coming to me and saying, what do you actually mean there?
Right. Or that doesn't make sense.
Or that doesn't really make sense. Could you say that in a different way?
Yeah. when I'm writing, I tend to, especially action, I'll kind of block it out in print on the page.
Yep.
Okay, he's moving over here. He pulls back his sword. He's going to clobber somebody, and then I got to go in after the fact and take out that stuff that isn't necessary to the story. But I don't always see it because, like I said, I start reading to edit, and then I end up reading. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, he's cocking his arm back. He's going to crack that guy in the skull. But it's not necessary because it's already implied in there.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time seeing that. Yeah.
I have a tendency to over explain as well sometimes.
Right.
It's like, that sentence isn't necessary because you just don't need it.
And I think I do it internally just to keep it clear in my head while I'm writing. It's, it's this is all going on in my head while I'm tapping on the keyboard, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, I tend to visualize.
I do too.
Yeah, I tend to visualize it in my head. So because I don't plot. I'm a complete and total pantser. So I see it in my head, and as I'm seeing it in my head, I write it. And sometimes I'll explain it exactly as it is in my head.
I do the exact same thing. I'm working with a group called the Dread Machine, and they're out of Florida.
Machine,
And I've got a story coming out there, but I've been working with their editor, and we've been talking a lot of writing. They're actually kind of cool because they created a Discord site. So anybody who gets published gets kicked into their Discord, and you can just go on there and chat all day about writing and all kinds of things. And they offer their writers a lot of stuff, but I've had some really good talks with different people about how they approach the writing process because everybody does it different.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's neat to hear from other people how I always assumed everybody visualized what they wrote, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah, no. It's a writer I know, David Green. He's quite an anomaly because he doesn't visualize the scenes. He visualizes the words.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the only person I know that does that. But he can see the words like he's reading a page and writes them down.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm the totally opposite. I see things going on inside my head, and I'm trying to write it down.
You've got to try and find the words to explain it. That's right. That's like I am. Yeah.
Yes.
I hear dialogue as well when I'm in conversations. Usually when I'm trying to go to bed at night. I'll be lying in bed and I'll be hearing my characters having a conversation. Usually an argument. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, so so I've got to say that I absolutely loved Don't Mess with Buddies. I thought it was
Thank you. It was a weird little story, and it was like I said, another press.
You see it. Never mind.
That's okay. Another press had a theme, and I can't even remember who it was anymore, and I submitted to it and got rejected. But the theme was the rabbit's got to die and somebody's got to be next. And that was it. And at first I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I was like, that's silly. And then 2 hours later, this idea popped in my head, and I was like, oh my God. And so I fleshed that story out in about 2 days, the first bones of it and stuff. And it really, the editors were great because they wrote me back and said, they said good things, but they said they wanted more like talking animals was their vision for the project, not the way I approached it. And so, they were really nice about it and decent. And I was like, okay, no big worry. And I just kept sending it out, and then Madison got a hold of it, and
Mm.
and it just kind of became what it became. So
Well, the thing is, I imagine Daedra would be quite happy because I mean, there's a reason these bunny ears are here, and that's because of her.
oh yeah, okay,
Yeah, because of her mini book, White Mannequin's Game.
oh okay,
Yeah, with the
yeah.
So I
That's
think
cool.
she's got a thing about rabbits.
So I might have had an in there.
Yeah.
Well, bunnies are just one of those things that are basically not scary. I
Well,
always
that's what I
remember.
love about it. I mean, because I mean, a lot of what I write, I tend to try and make the completely innocuous, the completely
Yes,
unthreatening
right.
murderous.
Yes, and it's fun when you can do it. I really love the Native American indigenous people lore and the legends, and
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it?
it is, and I read a lot of the legends and stories of different tribes, and I've always been, really just admired their culture and everything. And so a lot of that kind of seeps into my writing. I'm basically Scottish and German, but got a
Yeah.
great grandfather who was part American Indian, and my wife's side, her grandfather was
Yeah.
part American. So it's not really our heritage, but I'm just I'm fascinated with the culture.
But it kind of
And
it is your heritage because let's face it,
it
you're
is
American. They're
right.
American. Is
No, right, right. Uh-huh.
yeah.
But I really appreciate all of that I can
It
get my
is.
hands
It's
on.
really interesting stuff. I actually did it was online not long ago, like a couple of weeks ago. Because of my birthday and all the rest of it and all that, my spirit, my Native American spirit
Oh,
animal,
okay.
yeah, would be a snow goose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Apparently.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's all good.
It's one of those daft internet things you do, but
Right. Yes. Yeah.
No,
Why
but
not?
my partner, her mother is from Alabama,
Okay.
and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
her mother was Native American. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
So that's kind of how I tackled that story with the
well,
spirit
I
and
loved it because I honestly didn't know what I was going to expect going into it.
that's cool.
Uh,
That's always the hope
yeah,
as
and I
a
was
writer.
honestly expecting it to be a lot sillier than it was.
Right.
And then when it get and I thought you handled it superbly when he got to like sort of the halfway point, and that you know what, I'm not going to spoiler anybody, but
Right. Right.
when the sort of
Yep.
penny drops and
Yes.
then that threat comes in,
Yep.
it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, that's good, that's good, that's really good. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I liked that. Yeah.
And that story kind of launched me back into the short story game, and I've just been kind of writing. I've taken a break from novels and been writing short stories ever since. So, and I've had
Yeah, I
pretty
think
decent
it's
luck.
good. I mean, I think it's good practice, isn't it? I mean, it's
I think so too. I didn't quite understand the short story until I got into it this next time around, and
yeah,
and realized, I used to hate writing them, and now I love them because they're such a challenge to keep you got to keep the word count down, and especially with a lot of presses don't like to go over 4,000 or 5,000 words, and so that's a
that's something I
challenge.
struggle with because I mean, my sweet spot is sort of novella length.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I tend towards longer fiction myself.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
it
so,
is. Yeah,
and it's been good for me too for editing because like bunnies, I think it was at around 7,500 words, and I had to get it down to 7 to get it in, and or something, and so I was going through it every single day, going, okay, is this really necessary? Is this? And it was
yeah,
good practice, good skill building for really looking at a paragraph and saying, okay, what's extraneous? What's necessary? Is this pushing the story, or is this just filler? And so that has helped me
yeah.
too, writing short stories. I think it'll help the novels down the road, but
Yeah, well, I think from my personal standpoint, it did because the first thing I wrote was a novel, and it's
okay.
not seen light of day because it was a
Yeah.
mess.
Right.
It needs a lot of work. And I got it done, and it was what got me back into writing, because I'd written when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then I was a chef for like 20 odd years.
Okay.
And then my career was ended by a spinal injury. And I started writing again. And I sort of did that thing where a lot of people do. I'm just going to write a novel.
Right.
Yeah, as you do. And I got to the end of it, and I'd really found my groove again by that point. And I thought, right, I'm going to write some short stories. And I did exactly what you did. I just got so into them.
Yeah.
That I've still not gone back and fixed it. Because
right. No, I haven't either. I haven't tried a novel since 2019. I've got ideas and I've got things I can work on, but I've just, I'll go a few days or a couple of weeks, and then a story will just start popping behind my eyes. And I'm like, well, we're getting that down on paper.
Yeah. I'm the same. I just get them pop in my head.
And it's weird, like on the weekends, I'll get up on like a Saturday morning and, get up and go to the bathroom, and I'll lay back down, and damned if some story or something doesn't start rolling, I'm all ready to go back to sleep. And then while I'm laying there, something starts picking at my brain, and then I'm like, crap, I'm getting up, and I go turn on the computer.
Every time.
Yeah.
That's what I get them as well when I'm trying to get back to bed, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night and go to the lavvy.
Yes.
Just get an idea. It's 3 a.m. It's just like,
I keep a notebook by the side of the bed for when that happens.
I've driven my partner insane some nights, because she'll be there sleeping, snoring away, and all she can hear is I'm scribbling furiously in this notebook.
I've had it happen many times. It's like, and it won't leave you alone until you get it out of your head.
It's like an itch in your brain, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And I think that's what fascinates me about the writing, because I totally do not understand the process. I don't understand how it works.
No.
And I don't think I really want to, because I think it'd spoil it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's best not to peek behind the curtain.
Right.
If you start analyzing it too much, then it becomes too much like work, I think.
Right.
Or start analyzing it. It's
right now the process is just magic, and it just does what it does, and I love it. That's why there's a magic circle in it. Don't learn the tricks, just enjoy it. Right. Yeah, don't think too hard about it. Yep.
Yeah, but by the same token, there is these writers who meticulously plan everything, and I find that amazing in its own way, because I just can't do it.
Well, I can't see that far down the road.
No, I can't visualize like that far down it and everything that goes in there. And if I start trying to do it, I'll get nothing done.
I do too, but I trust my imagination to figure it out for me, and that's what I rely on, and it works.
Yeah.
I've kind of sort of pseudo written myself into a corner before, and I've learned to just say, okay, I'm walking away from it. And I'll leave it for a day or 2 or 5, and then I'll be in the shower or walking or going somewhere, and it'll just hit. And I'm like, oh, that's how we solve that. And then I'm moving on.
It's only happened to me a couple of times, like really badly, what they call writer's block. And I got sort of like 2/3 of the way through a novella, and I was just like, what the fuck am I going to do now? And I got myself so wound up about it, and I was just like, right, that's it. I'm turning my computer off. I'm going to drink a few beers. I'm going to play. I'm going to watch some crap. I'm going to play a video game. And about 3 in the morning, when I was, pissed as a newt, it was like, oh, that's how I do it.
Right. And
write that down while you remember it.
And that's the magic to me too. It's like, your brain is working it out. It just needs time to get there. And so. And I've gotten into the habit of having more than one thing that I'm working on at any one time, because if I get stuck, then I flip over to something else that I'm also doing. And then it makes it easier to divorce myself from the one I'm stuck on and concentrate on another thing and just go.
Well, that's one of the reasons I do all this kind of business with the videos and obviously because I've got to make graphics and things like that, because it's something else, but it's writing related. So I don't feel like I'm slacking. I'm still being productive.
Right.
But it's a great way of just taking a day off in my
Yes.
head
Yep.
because I'm still
Divorcing yourself from it.
working.
Right.
Well,
and
you know,
I don't like it when people say, well, you got to write every day.
Mm.
I don't feel that. I try to write every week in a certain amount, I get stuff going, but I also consider editing and like you said, the videos or even
Promotion.
researching stuff for a story as writing. It's all part of that process. And sometimes I got to figure out the backstories to figure out the front story. And, and so I don't buy you have to put down words on the page every single day.
I think I don't see the point in trying to force it.
No. And that's when I write my
Because you're not going to get your best work, are you?
No, it's going to suck.
Yeah. If you're forcing yourself to do it, it's going to lack that spontaneity, that sort of fluidity that everything needs.
Yeah. And I've written a couple of half of a couple of short stories that I had a good idea and I really wanted it to work, but then I get halfway into it and I'm just not into it and it's just not going the way I want. And I'm just like, all right, I'm out. I leave it. Maybe I'll go back to it. Maybe I won't, but.
Now, you see, I've done that a couple of times and then like 6-7 months down the line, something has popped up, like a submission call, and I've gone, hang on a minute. If I just change that slightly, just work that slightly, and it just works brilliantly, and that's why I never get rid of anything I write.
I don't either, because you're right. I had a story that I wrote 15 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Red Cape Publishing, they're doing the A to Z right now.
I know Red Cape. They're actually based like a couple of miles down the road.
That's cool.
Yeah. They're around the corner.
Well, we both got a story in B for Beasts, I think. Was it B for Beasts? Did you get one in? Or maybe you didn't.
No. I've not been in one of theirs yet.
Oh, okay.
I didn't actually know they existed.
I knew you and I have been overlapping in a couple things because I started pulling out some.
I've actually got a couple of them here. We're in there.
Yes, I've got Big Rock in there, and you've got the Yep.
Because you've got 13 in that, haven't you?
Yep.
Which,
and you've got Rouse Them Not.
Yeah, I remember that because that's a creepy bloody story. That I liked that.
Thank you. Well, I liked Rouse Them Not too. You definitely got that Lovecraft vibe going, and my mom was a huge horror fan, and so she just passed it on to my brother and I, and I grew up reading Lovecraft and a lot of August Derleth and a lot of other people. So that's just kind of my base for horror. And
same. I mean, because my grandfather was massive. I spent most of my younger life with my grandparents, and he was massively into the old like pulp, weird tales, all that kind.
That's cool, because mine was too. My grandpa loved sci-fi, and he actually retired when I was in college and and he read a lot. He wasn't really educated, but he loved stories. And then, so I ended up dumping my entire library of books on him while he was retired. And so I'd get out of class, because I went to school here too, and they lived like 6 blocks from us. So I'd go down after classes and we'd talk about the book he'd read that he'd borrowed from me, and we shared a lot, and it was great. It's my best memories of him, but he liked a lot of that stuff too. It's cool,
because I mean his love was like the proper old pulp. You got paperbacks and all that, and and because he liked his weird horror stuff. But he also liked his westerns and all that kind of business,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's where I got my sort of stuff from, because I used to just, as a kid, I've always been a really sort of voracious reader, and so
me too.
So I just used to just devour his bookshelf,
Yes.
And through that, I was discovering all these people like Lovecraft and Derleth and Robert Howard and and all these guys,
the whole Ambrose Bierce and
Ambrose. Oh yes, the one of my favorites is always Algernon Blackwood.
Yes,
and Arthur Machen was one for me growing up.
I just bought an anthology of Algernon Blackwood because I love his Wendigo story, and
so good, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Ambrose Bierce, I was always, The Damned Thing was always one of my
Damn
favorite.
thing. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
an awesome.
He did that sort of unsettling very well.
Yes, he did. And
Just
I've
something
got,
like tickling the back of your head. Just like,
yep, just creeping
there's
up
something
over your
off
shoulder.
about this.
Yes, yes. I was going to say, I had a favorite story that I'm looking it up because I wrote it down because I never want to forget it. But there was a guy named David H. Keller with a K, and he wrote a story called The Thing in the Cellar. And if you haven't read it, you should read it.
Okay.
The Thing in
It
the
doesn't ring
Cellar.
a bell. I will check it out.
I ran across it in junior high school, and it just scared the tar out of me. And it was so well done and so creepy. It's worth a read.
Also, yeah, I'll do. I will. Yeah,
It's worth a read. Or holler at me if you can't find it, because I think it's available free online because it's so
yeah,
old.
I was just thinking that because I've got the old Kindle thing. I've got a Kindle
No,
Fire, so I've
I
got
think
that.
this is just on a website. I think if you look his name up, you'll be able to just pull up the story and.
David H. Keller.
Yep, Keller. It's on my website
the name,
too.
The thing is, that's the thing. The name rings a bell.
Yes.
The Thing in the Cellar. It might actually be in one of the, because I've got the big like anthologies of horror tales.
I have a few too. Yes,
and
there's
weird
some
fiction
really.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And,
all the good old greats.
Yeah, exactly. So it might be in something I've already got, but I'll definitely check that out.
It's
the one
worth
that scared the crap out of me as a kid was The Willows by Black.
Oh yes, that's another favorite of mine. Because on the surface, it's not. It doesn't seem like much, but
no.
The further you get in, the creepier it gets, and suddenly you're just like sitting on the edge of your seat, just cringing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is as well, like because it's set like on the River Severn and that.
Yes.
And, I had family in Bridgnorth, which is on the River Severn, so I knew exactly when he was talking about the Willows and all that. I could see that in my head because I'd been there.
I was going to ask if you'd actually ever braved to go out there.
Yeah, I'd been there as a kid, and it scared the shit out of me.
That's awesome. I'm envious.
Yeah, it's great. But I think that's the thing, isn't it? With the best horror stories are something that taps into something in you.
Right. Yeah. It just catches you somehow, and those authors that can put you there are the ones that you're like, damn.
Yeah, totally. It's just like it's like I've not been to that I've not been to that area in Britain like for at least like 15, 20 years, but I can still see it vividly every time I read The Willows. So I read it again fairly recently because I bought a what was it? It was like a cosmic horror and best cosmic horror stories ever kind of thing. And obviously it's going to be in there. And and I was just reading it in bed, and I was just like, oh, this is bloody brilliant.
Yes.
But I could feel my hairs on my arm raising. It's just like
yes, I know. And that's to me a storyteller. And if I can do that for somebody else, then I feel like I've succeeded, and it doesn't matter. That's my end game. If I can freak somebody out.
I have no pretensions of wanting to, change the world or win awards or any of this. I just what I said when I first started out was I just want to write stories that make people feel the way I felt as a kid reading those old weird tales.
You know what? And that's where I'm at too. I've read so many good novels growing up that I'm like, and I mean, I would finish them and I'm just totally wowed and then also depressed because it's over. And that's, if I could do that for somebody else, then I'm a happy man.
Yeah, it's like you're clapping, but you want the encore.
Right. Except, like television and stuff, it's like they beat a dead horse, and I would, companies and stuff could just tell a story and be done with it, and let it sit where it is. But if it makes money, they always have to turn around and make like 4 sequels that suck. And
I mean, like especially with the horror genre. I mean,
oh yeah,
good God. It's like,
yeah. And sometimes they
it's
make
like
some really
it's like the first Saw film I thought was
yes,
superb because it was clever and there'd been
yep,
nothing like it. The
right,
rest of them sucked.
right.
They
They
were
just didn't.
awful.
Yes, I didn't. Yeah, the first one is the pinnacle, and it should have been just left there.
Yeah, because it didn't need to go any further.
Right. And that was the Alien movies. I love the first one. I was
Yeah.
scared to go around the corner of our hallway for like weeks. And then
Yeah, the first one is bloody terrifying.
I
Yeah,
did like the second one, but they
I
took a
loved
different
it.
angle on it.
Yeah, but I thought that was great because it was called Aliens as opposed to Aliens. So
Right.
it's almost like a different film in the same universe.
And they
And I
tackled it
think
from a
that
different
worked.
perspective. I think it did too. The third one I thought was just a hash of the other two, and I was just bored and didn't care. And then
I think that was the problem I had with the third one. It
yeah,
took far too long to actually get going. And by the time
yes.
it did get going, I didn't care.
Right. I was
There
there
was far
too.
too much just a bunch of angry men squabbling in a prison. Do you know what I mean? It
That's
was, wasn't
basically
it?
what that movie was. Yes.
Yeah,
And Ripley trying to talk sense to him.
yeah. Trying to talk sense to a bunch of idiots. Yeah.
I always remember the Aliens movie. A friend and I went downtown Iowa City to watch it. And then we walked home and we saw it at night. And when we started walking away from downtown toward our houses, we were on the sidewalk and we got about 2/3 of the way home. And I started laughing because I realized we're walking out in the middle of the street under the street lights as we're talking about this movie because it has creeped us out so bad that we're not walking in the shadows on the sidewalk. So I knew it got to me and in a good way.
No, brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I similar, yeah. I think a similar thing happened with me I can't remember what film it was. It was some old horror film.
Right.
I watched it around my friend's house. And we were sort of teenagers, sort of 14, 15, whatever. We watched it on a VHS tape. And to get home, I always used to walk. There was like a cut around the back of some houses, sort of dark alleyway. There was no way in hell I was walking that way. I walked all the way around the block to get home.
Yes.
That's a sign of a good horror film, I think.
Yes, it is.
If you will walk 10 minutes out of your way to get home just so you can stay in the street lights.
Right? Yeah, it's a good benchmark, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think the problem is, I mean, Hollywood is the worst for it. Just
They are.
beating a dead horse. And it's like once they've beaten it to death, they'll try and resurrect it and reboot it. And that's just, and they're never anywhere near as good as the original. So I don't understand why they do it.
It's because people will go see it and pay the money, so they'll.
Yeah, it's all
got
about cash in it. Yeah,
it is. Enough percentage will go to make the money on it that they'll keep dragging it out, and that's I don't watch a lot of sequels anymore because I'm afraid that it's just crap.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, it's a safe bet, isn't it? It's more than 50-50 that a sequel is going to be shit.
Yes. Yes. And I've skipped some movies just because I was afraid they were crap, and then and I've been pleasantly surprised in the past, but it depends.
Yeah, every now and then something will catch you off guard and be pretty good. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the current thing now is the remakes, isn't it?
It is, and it's been around for a while, but.
Yeah, but it's got to the point now that we're getting remakes of remakes.
I know. Yes. What kills me is they say, well, we're updating it for the younger audiences. And I'm like, bullshit. You're just pulling it back out because it made money back 20 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Don't bullshit a bullshit
up as anything that it isn't. It's a cash grab.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nope. That's cool. Well, I finished your Burning Reflections today, and it was an awesome story. I really liked it.
Oh, excellent.
It did have that Lovecraftian vibe, and the thing I love about Lovecraft and all of them is, it's such a slow build to the crescendo, and when it comes off right, man, it's like, yeah, that's cool. And
Yeah,
you did that. So
it's
I
something I
liked it.
struggle with to get right, and I think it's something it's the thing I pay most attention to when I'm writing is the pacing.
Yes.
Because especially with that kind of thing, you've got to get that dread going for it
Right.
to mean anything.
Yep. And you got to just toss a piece of candy out here and there, and then just keep
short
escalating.
stories are a completely different ball game because
they totally are.
You want you need it to be immediate. You need to.
Yep.
But anything, yeah. But I really, I was so happy that I got picked up because it's that started out as a short story. It was actually it was me all over. It started out as a short story and ended up as a novella.
I've done that too. It's like you get going and like, well, I can't tell that in 5,000 words. That's silly.
Yeah. Well, that was actually supposed to be for Erie. Their Erie Rivers monthly.
Oh yeah.
It was supposed to be for their Mirrors call.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But then it became more about the numerology and stuff like that.
Right.
And it was just like, this has gone on a tangent. I'm just gonna run.
But that's okay. I mean, I like that because the mirror aspect, and then the numerology, and then the Cthulhu back angle, and no, you threw a lot of stuff in there, and it was really good story.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that one.
It's
one of my favorites of my work. It's like especially more recent stuff I've written. So
right. Yeah. That's cool.
Again, you've got to love that mini book format.
I'm like, I'll take the mini book over the anthology. I think it's cool. I mean, I probably bought most of them, but I don't care.
Yeah, I bought a big stack of them, then gave them all away. Although
I did too.
I just want people to read the damn thing,
Right?
That's all I care about at the end of the day.
I just like, or seeing my name on an actual book that got published. Yeah.
Yeah, because that one for me, that was the first thing I'd had with just me. That was my first solo thing.
Right.
So yeah, we share that in common.
Yeah.
It's just cool, isn't it?
It is awesome.
Yeah.
I still kind of look at that as my pinnacle start on the short story front because it just, it was just, it's still 11 up there out of 10. So
yeah,
it's just cool.
It's like I was talking to this about somebody else as well. It's like milestones. You got that first story being published, and then you've got the first thing with your name on it.
Right. Yeah.
And they're just as important. And
no, right. It makes all the rejections and all the hard work and all the sweat, blood, and tears worth it.
It really does. It really does. And it's because we all get rejections. We all get these hiccups and all the rest of it. But it is a case of just picking yourself up and getting back on with it.
Right. And that's where I've got a spreadsheet of everything that I send out and what happens to it. But I've just started to look at it.
I have a one of them project notebooks because
Yep.
I can't be asked to make a spreadsheet because I'm lazy.
And that's cool. And to me, I can kind of just look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I've got hundreds of rejections, but so what? I got several publications too, and each one just feels as good as the last one.
Definitely.
It doesn't get old.
One of the best things I ever heard was Stephen King's Nail. The story of Stephen King's Nail.
You know what? I read that because I had a nail on my notebook or on my wall shelf for a long time when I was writing novels and stuff, and I just slap them on there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was trying to make some money, so he's sending it to like Penthouse and Playboy and all this kind of stuff. So he had this nail full of rejection letters from porno magazines.
That's awesome. Well, I had read I don't know how truthful it is, but I'd read a meme online one time. It was talking about all these great authors and how many times they had been rejected before they actually got anywhere. And it was in the hundreds on a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
So I just turn that into a badge of courage and say, yeah, bring them on. Let's get them over with. And
yeah, I mean, one of my favorite memes is the one that's saying, being an author and not wanting rejections is like being a boxer and not wanting to be punched.
Right. That's exactly it. And it is. It's just kind of part of the game.
Yeah.
And you can't worry about it too much. Can't take it too seriously. But
the thing is, though, I mean, I always, I'm a firm believer that sometimes it works out for the better, because I've had things rejected that then been picked up and been in a much better position. I mean, if you think about it, that first time you wrote that bunny story, if it had been picked up in that anthology,
it had just been
the quite amusing one. It had just been in an anthology, and then if Madison had just put it in the anthology,
right, and it actually, now I've got a book with
now you've got a book with your name on it,
right? No, and I believe in that kind of stuff too. Yeah, right. Yeah. Forever on Amazon. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's and I go with that too. It's like, you know what, things are meant to be, and there's certain times and places, and you just ride with it. Don't stress over it and don't freak over it. Just go. Just write and do what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, I know some writers take it incredibly hard, and
I think I did early on, and I think it's an inevitability. I had a period when I was younger that I got disgusted because I'd written a couple of crap novels and they weren't getting anywhere. And I hit a point and I was like, okay, that's it. Screw it. I'm done. I'm not writing anymore.
Yeah.
And it lasted like 3-4 weeks. And then I had the story bugging me in the back of the head, and I'm like, just shut up
again. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, fine, I'll get it out on page. And then it just, and I was back in the game again. And so I've just like, okay, lead me on, give me the stories. I'll do the best I can with them, and the hell with it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I thought I'd take it a lot worse than I did.
Right.
But I think I was I think I did something quite clever. Was I read, when I was just starting to try and be published, I actually read Stephen King on writing. So I heard about his nail story before I started trying to be published.
That was so good too. And there was a lot of insight in there, a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. And the thing, it's like, I don't tend to read a lot of like manual type things and all the rest.
I don't either.
But there was a lot of tips in there and a lot of like really good sort of things.
Yeah, just common sense, real world stuff.
Yeah. I found it really helpful, like, because I knew nothing about being published, absolutely nothing.
Right.
And I just kind of blundered into it. And I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing today.
So am I.
I'm just like, I'll do it my way. It kind of works for whatever.
Stephen King actually came to Iowa City a couple years back.
Oh yeah.
And we got tickets and went and saw him and got his book.
Nice.
And it was fun, but he had this whole thing where he was, just talking about the genre of horror. And he started talking about the back seat of people's cars. And he was just weaving it in. And then he went through his spiel and this and that. And they looked at the audience. He's like, and I don't care what you think, but when you go into your car tonight, you're going to look in the back seat.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's a master.
Yeah. He got you.
He did completely. And it was really subtle and just,
Yeah.
He's like, you don't realistically think anybody's hiding in your back seat. And then he went on something else, and then he came back to it, and it was really cool to watch that.
That's brilliant.
It was brilliant.
That's a master at work right there, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Just feeding you little bits.
Right. And that's how it happens. You throw something out, it catches your attention, and then you pull them in slowly. Yeah. Yep.
I love that kind of thing. Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
Hey, now I was going to bring up one other thing because I realized we had something else in common. I don't know if you can see it. Cephalopods have been a favorite of mine since I was a kid.
That's a good one. Yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah.
I've got a few.
I've got a squid right there.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I've got loads. They're on the other side of the room at the minute, most of them. But,
Yes.
yeah, I've got loads of them. I collect them. So
I've got a couple too because I really like them. They're amazing creatures. And
amazing. Did you see that that thing that it was in the news either yesterday or this morning about the cuttlefish that that had passed, like, you know, the marshmallow test that they give kids?
oh, really?
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me in the least.
No, they had basically how they did it was they had like a chamber, and they had a prawn, like a half a prawn in one, then they had a live shrimp in the center, and then that one, but they had like a circle and a triangle and a square,
Okay.
and things like that. And so basically, if they opened the first chamber, if the cuttlefish took the prawn, it wouldn't get the shrimp.
Okay.
So the cuttlefish had to wait, and then it would get the shrimp, right? Which is what the cuttlefish was. So, and they did this a few times, and the cuttlefish learned, if I wait for 60 seconds, I'm going to get that shrimp. So I'm going to tuck my tentacles under, sit here, basically fold my arms and go, nah, give me the shrimp.
Octopi are so smart.
Oh, God, yeah.
They're amazing. Yeah. I've read so many stories. There's a documentary on Netflix. I think it's called My Teacher the Octopus or something like that. And it's this guy who, he's a filmmaker, and he gets kind of just disgruntled with everything, and he goes back to his home spot, and there's a bay or something out there, and he just goes snorkeling, and he finds this octopus, and he follows it through the rest of its life for several months.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, you need to watch it.
I do need to watch it. I was just thinking, when we finish this, I'm probably going to sit down and have a drink after we've finished this. I'm going to watch it because I've got Netflix.
My Octopus Teacher. It's a 2020.
Teacher. Nice.
Yep. It's amazing. And yeah, I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's
I will. Yeah, I found them fascinating creatures. I love them.
Well, I grew up reading a lot of paranormal. I started with a book that was Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and sea monsters and all of that stuff. Nice. And so that was in grade school, and I've always been fascinated with stuff like that. And then, you know, octopi and giant squids and everything. There's all kinds of crazy stuff out there, and a lot of that inspires me just for short stories. I mean, because there's so much. I mean, I put my own twist on it, but in the 50s in Florida, and this, I don't know if you're familiar, but St. Augustine Beach, this guy named Weber was his last name. He found a massive tissue that washed up on a beach in St. Augustine.
The colossal squid thing?
Except he thought it was octopus. And it was a 10-foot by 10-foot mass with tentacles. And he tested it and said it was octopus. And there's been conflicting stuff over the years, but there's been a lot of crazy stuff with giant octopi. And there's down in the Caribbean, there's something called the Lusca, which they think is giant octopus living in the blue holes. And
well, it's like they've only recently got evidence of the colossal squid, because obviously they'd had like washing up on shore, but they've only recently got footage of one right down in the
saw that. I was there watching that. Yes.
Incredible. It was just like,
it was crazy.
Jesus Christ, how big is that thing?
Right? And I'm glad I'm not in the water with it.
Yeah. It's like a bus.
Yes. So that, you know, and that stuff always is great inspiration for stories. And just, like I said, I love reading about that stuff.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love nature. I tend to find it fascinating. And I watch a lot of the sort of nature documentaries and all that. So it's like, I love bugs as well. I love insects, and I used to keep insects and things like this. And I just find them fascinating little things. and it's like a creature that I got obsessed with a few years ago is the pistol shrimp.
Oh yeah. I know what those are.
Yeah. It's this shrimp, right? That can click its claw like a gun.
Right. Yes.
But it creates a shock wave that
Yes.
creates heat like the sun. It's just
right. Just because of a.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it basically just sits there, points its thing out the thing, like bang, bang, you're dead.
Right. And it does it.
Dinner.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Right. And that's what kills me too. I mean, nature is almost infinite in what can happen. And again, more fodder for stories, but
exactly. I mean, all this stuff gets logged.
Yes.
And it all appears at some point, I think that's
it does me too.
Yeah. It's like I think we all like writers, the ones I've met at least, we all watch these kind of things. We all read a lot. We all
we do.
And it all gets sort of filed away somewhere for future reference,
right?
Doesn't it?
And then it all starts mixing until a combination pops out at you, and you're like,
and it could be years until it happens. But something, a submission call will just appear, and your brain will go, "Ooh."
Yep, I'm like,
that weird sea anemone we were reading about the other week.
Right? Yep. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the things I love about it is like just inspiration can come from anywhere.
It does, and that's what fascinates me too, and that's why I love talking this writing, because it's like something will just come out of the corner, and you're like, oh man, that'd make a great story. And I wrote a story last week, and I'm like, it just kind of, and it came from nowhere. It was just like, all of a sudden it was like, oh, this click, and it was like, oh damn, I'm writing this.
Nice. Yeah. I love it when that happens.
I do too. I mean, it's like I get like a dopamine high when I'm writing, or when I really have a story that hits like that. It's
when you start cooking and you're just going and you're just writing. It is a buzz.
It is a buzz. I put on the headphones, crank on some music, and then just go. And
I do. I do crank up the tunes. Just get
the music
going, man.
is almost like white noise in the background, but it sets the tone, or it sets the mood. Yep. Yeah,
I have to have something on in the background, or I get distracted because I like it because I can tune out, because I mean I'm also a DJ, so I'm kind of used to having noise. So if I don't have noise, I don't.
And that's, I think a lot of times for me it is like white noise. When I first got married, my wife and I had a duplex. We didn't really have a back room, so I had my computer desktop sit in the back of the living room. And so I just plug on headset to drown out what she was watching on TV, and then I would just sit and tap and write. And so I think that's
really quite funny, because what you see here is the back of the living room.
There you go.
The sofa is literally the other side of the screen.
It works.
Because we live in a flat. So,
Yes.
It works. This is my little office here. So it works brilliantly,
I think the scariest thing that ever happened to me was I was writing a story, and my wife was in the living room, and we were at the duplex, and she came up and she put her hand between my face and the screen, and I was so dialed in, I jumped like 4 feet. I did. It was exactly. I was like, ah! She's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And I was just in this story, and I was just going. And
I tend to get tentacles over the top of the screen, because like a lot of the like Helga the squid here lives on the back of the sofa, so I tend to get them over the top of the screen like
that. Pay some attention to me.
In case if she wants to ask me something, I'll end up with tentacles over the. It's like, are we going to have dinner at some point tonight?
Yes, I've been there. Yes.
Oh, brilliant!
That's awesome.
So, what sort of thing are you working on at the minute?
Actually, I had mentioned the Dread Machine. I wrote.
Oh yes, yep.
a sci-fi horror called Division Zero.
Nice.
And it's kind of SCP horror, if you know what that is.
No, no
Okay,
idea.
well, it's kind of like a government agency that kind of has to deal with horrific things, and usually they're outmatched and can't deal.
Right, okay. I get. Yeah.
And so,
I'm familiar with the SCP.
no. Yeah, and I cannot. It's like secure, contain, protect, or something like that. It's call letters for acronym for.
Got you.
But I wrote the story. It got rejected several times, and then the Dread Machine picked it up, and their editor, she's like, well, we're looking for a serial. Would you be able to write more of those? And I was like, well, hell yeah. I said, and actually I wrote the first one, and then I started writing a novel based off of that. But then when I was talking to her, the gears just started whirring. And so I've just dumped out a ton of stories for that. And so I'm handing those off to them, and we're going to decide how many of those to put out, and, on and on and on. And it'll be what it'll be. But, I basically created a government team that goes out and deals with paranormal stuff. And,
brilliant.
I
love all that kind of stuff because I love the TV shows that are like that.
Well, me too.
And more in TV shows than you do in novels, don't you?
Yes. Well, and this is nice because it's short stories, but it's all around a central theme. And I've created 3 teams, and it all builds toward a finale over time. So I grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and there was a cartoon that came out in, I think, the late 60s called Johnny Quest.
I know Johnny Quest. Yeah.
Yes, and that was one of my favorites of all time. And I love that story because it was the same thing. It was like a serial of sci-fi and horror, and it was no holds barred, and guns and violence and crazy monsters. And so I think
some of that was really out there.
It was nuts. And it was, back before anybody worried about, scarring anybody's psyche and this and that. So which is what I love. And so, I mean,
I'm the same. Yeah.
I've got all those on DVD, and I pull them out from time to time to watch because I just love those stories, the music. And it's real horror.
Think it ever came on TV over here, but I had the VHS tapes.
Yes, and there's got DVDs out there. Yeah, because
So I had a couple of VHS tapes.
Yes, there actually, it's funny because it was 20, 30 years ago, probably 20, but it was like a Thanksgiving weekend of all things, and over here, and they ran a marathon of Johnny Quest, and we had a VHS player. And so I taped them all.
Nice.
So I could have them because, I remembered them, and they would only show them occasionally on channels here and there. And so then I had a VHS tape of all of them. And then a few years later, they came out with everything on DVD. And so I was like, you bet I'm spending money on that.
Yeah. Now you told me. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Yeah,
they're just so good because they're really creepy.
Yeah, well, it was one of those things that I was like, I can't remember. I think it was a friend of mine.
Yeah,
I think I was in my sort of late teens, early 20s, and one of my mates, another goth, right? We've been like out on the piss or whatever, and he was just like, "Hey Tim, have you seen this sort of thing?"
Right.
And I was sitting there, we're drunk as newts after a gig or whatever.
Yeah.
Watching this stuff, and I'm just like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. It was just like a friend who sort of went, look at this.
Over here, growing up, we had a Friday night. It was called Creature Feature.
Nice.
And it was actually a family event. So mom and dad and my brother and I would sit down, make popcorn, the whole 9 yards, and they'd show horror movies every Friday night, 1 or 2 back to back. And so that was kind of my, indoctrination into that. And it was all 70s, 80s stuff, and mostly, I think, 60s, 70s. But, so it was, I don't know whether bred into me or what, but, between that and the cartoons and...
Yeah, we used to have a similar thing. On the Friday nights on like Channel 4, we'd have the Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible. And it'd be like back-to-back horror movies.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We've
and
got
with like you'd have what they used to do was they'd have a theme every week. So one week would be like vampires, one week werewolves, that kind of thing. But it'd be like a classic,
yes,
and then a modern take on it. So you'd get like
that's cool. That's
so
very
you get
cool.
like a Bela Lugosi,
yes,
Dracula, and then you get a sort of like 80s take on it. It's like Fright Night or something. Something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
Brilliant. Yeah, great. So I used to always video those. Yeah.
Yes.
Loads of tapes of them. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that was kind of my basis for horror. So
yeah.
So yeah, the Dread Machine, I'm working with them. We may get some stuff. I got there's a group called Hellbound Books.
Yes.
They bought
I'm in a couple of those.
They put out a call for a 2020 Vision anthology last year. It got stymied.
I was accepted into that.
I did too.
Oh, right. We would have been in the same one.
Yeah, and it got stymied, but they emailed me and asked me if they could hang on to it to put it in something else. And I'm like,
same.
come on.
Yeah, absolutely same. Yeah, they did the same with me. Yeah.
Yes. And so I just wrote them back and I said, yeah, you can have it. Hang on to it. It's yours. I liked the story that I wrote. And I really liked the way I came out. I wrote it in a third person the first time and I didn't like it. And then I turned around and wrote it in the first person. I liked that much better. And that's what got sold. So
yeah, I was in 2020 Visions.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm hoping they get something going with it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in a couple of theirs recently. I was in Toilet Zone number 2 and in Crime.
Oh yeah,
well.
I missed the thing on Toilet Zone. I've been expanding my calls. I've subscribed to this author's publisher online, and they send me updates about who's accepting what. And then I've heard of the Horror Tree.
I used the Horror Tree. That
and
was
Submission
like the
Grinders.
boom
Another
to
one.
my career was the Horror Tree. Yeah.
And I got to put the Horror Tree on my regular radar because they're always popping stuff out. And so I've missed a few things here and there, but
I mean, you're never going to see everything.
No, you're not. And that's fine because I do feel like there is like a rhyme and a reason sometimes of why you get kicked out of one and like you said, picked up somewhere else for something
I mean, sometimes
better.
It just works out for the better, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. And then I'm writing a bunch of stories, and then I've got a story being picked up this year called Old World Whiskey, and it's being picked up by this place called Sci-Fi Lampoon. It's a humorous story.
Nice. So it's like like National Lampoon kind of.
I think so.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard of these guys before, but they're pretty cool, and they wrote me back and they like the story. It's two college guys getting a hold of a bottle of whiskey and they're trying to drink it and things keep going wrong. So,
I like that. I like that.
It's not my usual thing, but every now and then a little humorous thing comes out. So
that just sounds like my youth.
Well, you write what you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely, mate.
So, yep, that's what's up for me this year. So,
excellent. Yeah, no,
it's cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited about the serial if it goes somewhere, and
that sounds great. I mean, that sounds like something I would read. So,
I was over the moon when she talked about it, and I'm like, well, if you're serious, I'm serious, and she's like, well, I'm serious. I'm like, okay, let's roll. And so we're working it out. I don't know what it'll end up as, and how many stories. I wrote a bunch of stories over between fall and Christmas. I mean, I was just in the mood and in the zone and just cranking them out one after the other. But we'll see what happens. Either way, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when that happens, that's like you've just got to go with it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, and that's why I said I get that total emotional high or whatever you want to call it when I really hit that area where you're just like, yes, and you just go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, good, really seriously good luck with that, mate. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, Dread Machine are quite
I'm really impressed with them. They're
Yeah.
like I said, they've got kind of an open forum, and they invite writers to get together and just talk about stuff. And we've had discussions on, the whole rejection thing, or
Yeah.
and that's, we're kind of on the same page there too. It's like, what? Rejections happen. It's part of the game. It's like paying for parking downtown. You just do it.
It's inevitable, isn't it?
It is. And you can't get squashed over it. You can't get worried about it. You just go. And it's like, oh, I wish I'd have gotten that published there, but you know what? Okay, I'm sending it out to here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the best way of looking at it.
I think so.
I think it's the only way of looking at it.
I think so too.
Because you've got to take any sort of negative and try and make some kind of positive out of it.
Yes.
Otherwise, I think you're doomed.
I think so too.
Just in writing, in anything. It's just,
right. It's rejection is all part of the process, and you just shrug it off.
Mm-hmm.
You pat yourself on the back for having 100 rejections, because it means you're still going.
Yeah, you're still doing it.
And that's it too.
A bunch of stuff,
Right. And even if
the 100 rejections, it means you've written 100 stories.
Right. And even if you've written 25 things that are crap, it means you're getting closer to writing something good.
I love that. That. Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. It's like, is what it is.
Yeah, totally. Well, Craig, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir.
I had a great time too. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So tonight on After Hours, I've been joined by Craig Crawford. If you want to check out his website, that is craiglcrawfordbooks.com. That's craiglcrawfordbooks.com. If you want to check out his Don't Mess with Bunnies, I made him a little universal link earlier.
Nice.
I recommend it because it's great. It's getbook.at/don't mess with bunnies. Getbook.at/don't mess with bunnies.
Appreciate it.
Bunnies, it must be bunnies.
Get it?
Not a problem, sir. As always, I'm Tim Mendees, Tim Mendees writer.wordpress.com. And I've recently started a newsletter.
Nice. I signed up for that.
Oh, cheers. So if anyone sign up for it, you get a free cosmic horror novelette. It's an exclusive you won't find anywhere else. If you want to check that out, it's tinyurl.com/Tim Mendees newsletter. That's cool. tinyurl.com/Tim Mendees newsletter.
It's all right.
It's
that time of day.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. Well, it's midnight for me, so
I'm 6:15. So yeah. I appreciate it, man. I will stay in touch with you on Facebook and love talking.
Please do, mate. Yeah. It's an absolute pleasure, sir.
Yes, you too.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you again next time.